Tuned in to Coder Conversations, the podcast where professionals speak. I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm your co host, Brian Russick, drum teacher, drummer extraordinaire. If you want to book a lesson with me, go to brianrussick.com.
And joining us today is Oscar Araque, game producer who's worked on Halo and has also worked with Blizzard. Hopefully, I pronounced your name correctly.
That's perfectly fine. Any pronunciation at this point is quite welcome. I stopped trying a long time ago. so,
Awesome, man. Thanks. Thanks for joining us tonight.
So, yeah,
Mhm.
just to get things started, you've worked at some really big, really prominent companies. Can you give us a little bit of background on how you got to working on Halo and also how you got to working at Blizzard?
Of course. So, a little bit about myself. I come from Venezuela. Don't worry, I am harmless. Uh, and then I came here to learn how to make video games and also running away from a dictator, but mainly video games. Um, I got my bachelor's degree at Full Sail University. Um, and then my plan was to go back home and then use some of the skills that I acquired to either make games over there or make some kind of software company, right?
Right.
But at that particular point, my family was very explicit that it's like, hey, like, just stay there. It's still dangerous over here. You cannot speak freely. If you criticize openly
Wow.
the government, you can get arrested and all that good stuff. So, and back in the day, I was part of the student protest because figures we don't like dictators. So that basically earned me a little bit of a reputation back home um, because I was part of the student body organizing protests and all that stuff back when I was a university student over there. When things got a little bit too hot, my dad was like, "Hey, didn't you want to study that video thingy, video
The
game
video
thing?"
stuff. What?
Yeah. And you can tell my eyes sparkled at that moment. I was like, "What? I get to?" It's like, "Yep, yep, yep. Just go out there because I prefer you there studying that stuff than here dead." I'm like, "Okay, okay." That took a weird
Okay.
turn, but
Sounds good. Yeah.
so I got my bachelor's. My plan was going back. Then family was like, "Nope." And I was like, "Okay, what should I do?" So just keep studying. And I was like, "Okay, I'll get a master's degree." And then I got my
Okay.
master's
Nice.
degree.
Nice.
Yep. And then from there, I went ahead and definitely worked on video games quite some time later. I had to do
Right.
other odd jobs. Yeah.
Got to kind of
Every,
like level up, right? Level up a little bit at a time.
yep. Everybody wants to make video games, man. Like, it
That's the
is a really
thing.
cool jump. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's awesome that you're in that industry.
hmm So my advice for everyone that is trying to get their foot on the door to make video games, it worked for me. It worked for them. You have to move to a city that makes video games, right?
Mm.
For me, I exit Orlando, Florida, and I went to Austin, Texas. You'll find
Austin. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, several studios are over there. And after some, lots of digging, a lot of applications and things like that, I got contacted by Blizzard. They were in the
Wow.
verge of working on the final stages of World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth. And they were like, "Hey, I see that you have a background in gaming. Would you like to work with us?" And I'm like, "Sure. Why me?" And they're like,
All
"Well,
right.
we need a bilingual speaker."
Ah.
And I'm like,
So
"Oh."
that's kind of how you got in.
hmm
Very
Because
interesting.
yeah, Blizzard has a following all over the world, right? But South
Yeah.
America is pretty big into World of Warcraft, so they needed someone that was able to communicate to the player base down there. So they created a game master group with people that were bilingual by nature, right? Like they could speak English and Spanish. So now we could serve both uh, anyone speaking English and South America in general because speak Spanish over there.
That's amazing.
Uh, yep. It was a really cool, really interesting job. Like you get to be game master, you get to be literally God inside that game. You just need to make sure that you don't upset your gods, which is your manager, right? Don't go dropping hardcore bosses in the middle of cities, even though the players find it amusing, the company not so much. So you need to you have some rules and stipulations. You cannot be over generous, but also you cannot be like, let's just say, not cordial to your players, because
Yeah.
it is important, right? And one thing led to another, but I spent about almost a couple of years working there. It was amazing. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Bad stuff happened, lots of unemployment for a lot of time. Thank God I had savings.
Yeah. I mean, that COVID, that derailed a lot of people. A
Hmm.
lot of people. Yeah.
Yep. And, down the line, then eventually after COVID, on the verge of desperation and like really, really bad times,
Yeah.
Microsoft reached out of nowhere. At first, I thought it was a scam call. I was like, hey, would you like to work for Microsoft? And they're like, sure. Who are you?
Who are
I was
you?
like,
Why are you
"Yep,
contacting me? Yeah.
yep." I was like, oh, we found your resume online. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So it
Did they
ended up,
like stumble upon your GitHub or something like that? See,
well,
like projects?
LinkedIn and my art portfolio, because I had a computer graphic specialization. Everything you see on a video game, I can create. It
Okay.
just takes a lot of time. Um,
Yeah.
so they saw all that stuff and they're like, hey, like seems like you know a little bit about this stuff. Let's have a conversation. I went
Wow.
through 4 rounds of interview, and 6 months later, they reach back and it's like, hey, so all the candidates that we have framed decided to go elsewhere, so I guess we're stuck with you. And I'm like, well, I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'll
Awesome.
take it.
Awesome.
And yeah, and here I am now.
Here you are. Yeah, on
Yeah,
our show.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
correct.
man.
So, like, in what capacity were you brought on to the company, and like, what are you doing on a day to day basis?
Well, it was a kind of a different job from Blizzard. This one was literally the manager. mm, We don't call them managers anymore. The coach of the managers. It's basically assisting the managers to kind of do a better job. The reason behind it is at that particular time, and it came out on the press and the news and everything, Halo Infinite development wasn't doing that well. If you go back a little bit, you'll see that the release of the game got pushed for a year.
Yeah.
And that is because at that point, the director, she came out straight and said, it's like, we're not going to release a shitty Halo, period. So she did what I would have done, is just push the deadline, make it good. But the problem is the technology has advanced so much. It is not your good old fashioned Xbox, the very first Xbox Halo. This
Yeah.
is
Right.
high quality voice acting, high quality assets, have well more developed sleep space engine uh, that requires a lot of people to work on, making the process very convoluted. So you
Mm.
needed to organize that stuff, and that is where they were struggling, right?
Okay.
Organizing all that process, and that's where I came in, because it just happens I have a couple of specializations in frameworks and organizing work and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So my boss at the time, Jeff Guy, the coolest guy in the planet, period, um, he basically come and told me, it's like, hey, there's a lot of nuances going on within the studio that we need to fix if we are to release a quality product. And I'm like, okay, so can you give me an example? And he gave me this example. To this day, it sticks with me. He told me, it's like, it's really hard and heartbreaking when you reach out on a room full of really smart people and you ask, who is responsible for this feature? And nobody knows. And it's like, so we're like, okay. So a good time of those 2 years was basically organizing the framework, establishing what we call Scrum
Right.
in the development teams, which is breaking teams into smaller teams that are multidisciplined, able to finish features from beginning to end, and then send it over to the team that will put it on the branch. Uh,
And do you follow like Agile?
That's
Okay.
correct. It's so a Scrum, a Trim Programming, Kanban, a Scrumban, all those fall into the Agile umbrella, uh, and it's kind of what I do. So the first thing was basically establishing the whole pipeline, which is if you don't want things slipping through the cracks, you have to set up systems that allows you to constantly be checking. Something called the daily stand-up, right? For example,
Yeah.
you will sit on every morning with your team for 15 minutes and you talk about the things that you did yesterday, you think that you're doing today, and if you have any impediments. Now that is the bare bone minimum. Ideally, once your team gets advanced enough, you get to have the conversations like I am struggling with this feature, and then another team member jumps in and says like, hey, I know how to do that, let's get together after the meeting and I will help
Mm,
you. So that's how you bond
yeah.
with your team and you become really really good at it. And
That's
then
great.
you yep, and then you get fast, which is
Mm.
what most studios ever desire. They want to release good stuff quickly.
Quickly. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the name of the game.
Yep. So that's pretty much what I did. Eventually, my role evolved from a Scrum Master all the way to a Scrum Master slash producer because I was also creating the backlogs. I was also setting up the capacity for the sprint, and then assigning the jobs to the different team members and making sure that they are on track. So it was a kind of a hybrid position. You wear many hats during that time, but the end job is always the same. You support the teams and you make sure that everything is developed with quality in mind. Um, Hopefully that's clear enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So like,
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
so prior to you getting there, what was the process like? Was it like waterfall, or was it just completely disorganized, just kind of going off the seat of your pants?
So we call them. There are a lot of funny names out there for the kind of process that companies like this tend to roll. We either call them Chimera frameworks, Frankenstein frameworks, or a Scrum bot. Uh, because they usually come as like, yeah, we run a Scrum, but we do this and this and this and that. So now
Right.
there's a joke among the industry. So you run a Scrum bot, okay, cool. Um, and then it is not to say that those systems are not successful. Those systems are developed through empiricism. They try things, see if it works. If it doesn't work, they try something else, and they keep repeating the same process until they have something that kind of works, right? But it is not. It doesn't cover all the bases. That's
Right.
usually when where the Scrum Master comes in and starts aligning. Okay, what is working for you right now? What is not working? What of the process we can implement little by little until eventually the hope is always the same: is converting the company completely to Scrum. But you have to make compromises. You always have to make compromises, right?
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
just
For sure.
the way it works. To give you an example, the Scrum says that you have to have teams of no more than 9 people, right? I have two teams of 40 people each.
Wow.
Wow.
So I was like, and then I asked, is like,
How do you deal with that? I mean,
yeah,
that's intimidating. That's a
yeah,
lot of people.
and you have to get information for all those 40 peoples in 15 minutes if you are to respect the daily stand-up, right? So
Wow.
oddly enough, the reason why it worked is because their process, they are the art team. And the cool thing about art, I was an artist before becoming a producer, a 3D artist, is
Hmm.
it is a sequential process. You get your concept art, you create your high definition model, then you create your low definition 3D model, then you bake the normals, and then you create your textures and all the stuff. Like it is an ABC process, right?
Oh, sounds like a lot of work.
Oh yeah, making
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
Everything you see on a video game, those and whenever it looks amazing, we take it for granted. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of work
A
going
lot of
involved
work.
in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, you set up all those processes. You talk and then sorry, you establish those processes. You make sure that what the team, you have a conversation with the team to see what kind of system they are running, and then
Right.
you incorporate that to your daily stand-up, right? What ends up looking is everybody comes in the morning, all 40 members, and they come as like, I did this, I'm doing this, I don't have impediments. Next. That's it.
Yeah, literally, right?
Yeah, and they'll repeat the same process. So yeah, you can technically run it. And then if someone had an issue, it's like, hey, my Maya locked up, I don't have the license at this particular point, or something along those lines. That's usually when I come in and I take note, and it's like, okay, after the daily stand-up, let's meet together. I'll go ahead and reach out to the IT department to make sure that they send you a key to unlock your Maya, those kind of situations, right?
Yeah.
So it does work, and you can make it work, but it needs to be with a team that is already knows the work really well, and they already know how to do it. So all it takes is really just keeping track of it.
So
It
we're
can
talking
happen.
like, the saying in the industry, hit the ground running. It
Hmm.
sounds like that's what they want. They want people like that are ready on day one. They don't want to train. Uh, they don't, yeah, it sounds like they don't want to train people. They just want to bring on like a senior dev who really
Yep.
knows what he's doing.
There's no, sadly, the way things work nowadays in the industry is the training needs to happen by yourself on your free time
Yeah.
without a job. The company is not going to train you. They're just going to give you a little bit to get to where they need you to be if you're missing that little bit, right? But the 10, what we call the 10,000 hours, you have to put those, and that's when you are actually like,
Yeah.
now you are on the starting line. Now you can
Wow.
go competitive. Yeah.
So I know like a lot of times like developers or artists, they kind of feel like they know how to run things. They don't need to be managed. So how are you able to get them to buy into like the new Scrum and establishing formal processes?
Oh, they actually love it because if they so a lot of the work that we were doing was remote, big time, right? That was soon after COVID, and then remote
Right.
work was actually getting a lot of traction before losing traction. But that was how we were working. So they actually embrace the idea that all they have to do is stand in for 15 minutes and report on their work, and then they have the rest of the day to do whatever they want. As long as the allotted amount of work was done by the end of the sprint, then they can do it whenever they feel like it. Now,
Okay.
we do our best to ensure quality, right? Because if you leave all your work to the last few days of the sprint, that's where bad things happen, and then it's like, why does this look like this, why is this not
Like
properly.
people cutting corners, so
Hmm.
to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, or just like relaxing a little bit too much. It's like, oh, I can finish this in a cut. So that's also the artist mentality.
I see.
Whenever an artist give you a timeline, like, oh, this is gonna take me a day, multiply by 1.5, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I would say, I would even go as far and say multiply by 2, and you'll be safe, right?
Right.
So that's pretty much what we establish over here, and then we assign the work based on that, and based on the velocity, based on the quality. Some artists are faster than others, some are more detail oriented than others, depending on the situation. So you can tailor your approach and the work distribution based on the you know the strength of each of the team members, right? Or as best as you can. Sometimes a team member will just jump in and say, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. There's also an extra complexity level, which is outsourcing, which is becoming a more and more prominent thing. There are
Right.
studios out there that all they do is create the art or the code or the systems for AAA studios.
Right.
343 Industry uses a few. Um, Certain Affinity certainly works with them. They create a lot of the art assets that you see on Halo Infinite and the multiplayers campaigns. So
Okay.
yeah, just to give you an example.
That's awesome.
So like you kind of mentioned, there's artists of all different skill levels and speeds. Like how do you make sure that all of these assets are consistent? Like some is producing awful work, some producing good work at different paces. Like and this all gets jumbled together. Like, how do you get the consistency?
So there are there's like checkpoints that we put in place for each of the pieces that we need. For instance, if you need the concept art, right? You
Right.
receive your concept art. The person that is having the vision of the game checks the concept art and they give like, yeah, this is good. At this point, the 3D artist just needs to make it look like it, right? And of course, it needs to be some kind of optimized geometry to make sure that you're not bugging the engine and all that kind of stuff. But once the concept art is there, the artists know exactly what to shoot for. And at that particular point, you can compare the concept artist with the final product, and then you give it a thumbs up or the thumbs down, right?
Right.
Now, different levels of skills and speeds allows for different people. They come up with the same product, but some take a little bit longer, right? It's basically
Sure.
because we're not asking them to design. We're just asking them. It's like a 3D printer, right? You give them the stuff. It's like, hey, this is what I need. Boom, 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 and they create it, and then you go to check it. Good to go.
So when you say go to check it, does that mean that a game producer is doing the checking, or is someone else doing the checking?
There are multiple checkpoints throughout the sprint. The first one, of course, is gonna be the team, the produce. So the hierarchy would be probably the team. If the team member decides like, hey, this is what I did, do you guys find anything weird? Then you get the producer, so that says like, no, good enough, moving on. And then once it gets the approval, all the way until the end of the sprint, where you get the sprint review. The sprint review is where you present your work to the people making, 3 times your paycheck, basically, like all the people. Yeah.
Yeah. The
The
higher up.
very Yep, and they'll take a look at it. And most of the time, there's a combination of very savvy people that knows the game on those higher ups, and there's just business people on those.
Right.
So when it comes to art and the look of things, business people are just gonna nod and wave. But the especially the people that love the game and put the time on the game and things like that, they will look at it, and that is the moment to provide feedback, to say it's like, I like it, I don't like it, it's too simple, or things like that. Most of the time, because of so many checkpoints and so many people taking a look at this, it it rarely, especially when it comes to art, gets rejected.
Nice.
Right? In all honesty, in my 2 years with 343, I never saw an art piece rejected.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, like, is there any kind of metric system in place aside from the sprint goals, or is it pretty laid back? Like, you just, as long as they hit the goal, you just leave them alone.
Oh dear. Okay, so here's a little bit of storytelling. Halo was before Pierre. Halo was considered a design studio. We want to make great games. We'll release it when we feel that it is ready, and that is all good and pretty, but it's not making money, right?
Yeah.
The production, let's face it. I mean, one of those executive up there it's ranging from 150 all the way to $200,000, right? And we're talking your managers and all the stuff. And there's a lot of managers at Microsoft, lots of them,
Okay.
right? So this whole concept of design a studio was not flying because Halo Infinite came out and it sold, and it was not recovering the amount of money that it took to be developed. Right?
Okay.
Here comes Pierre, the new head of the studio. Super goal-oriented guy, extremely serious. He's German, so he has a German accent, and he goes at it. He has that super wicked and super cool sense of humor. He's like, "Hey, I'm a nice guy. I don't invade countries anymore. I try to be, that's his.
That's great.
Yeah. And he comes in, and the first thing that he says is like, "Look, we're not making money. We need to make some big changes over here." One of the big changes was a big taboo in the studio that almost got me in trouble. Was Unreal Engine 5, right? We were using a slit space. The problem with the slit space is if you want to put on a button or anything on that engine, it takes you 8 months of development.
Wow.
Just to do the simplest thing ever. So Pierre did the hard decision because that engine was developed in-house. A lot of that is the baby of a lot of the developers in there. And suddenly you're gonna tell us like, hey, your baby did really good, but now we're gonna take this guy over here and we're gonna do Unreal Engine.
We're gonna go switch it up on you. Yeah.
Um, so he switched the mentality from the whole design studio, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry guys, but we cannot keep depending on Microsoft keeps sending us a big fat check just to go ahead and annoy Sony, right? Like, just for the hell of being, eating at Sony's cake. So
Yeah.
we need to start making money. And with that mentality, that's where all the shift in production is like deliver quality as quickly as possible to the players. Uh, and that's where the metrics started to come in as well, tying up to your situation where before it was like, well, it's gonna be done when it's gonna be done. Now they have to go accountable. It's like, no, that's not how it works anymore. You have one sprint, pick the things that you think you can do on this particular sprint, and by the end of the sprint, we want it done. And if it is not done, that is fine. We want to know why, right? And then we want to have the teams learn, pick the stuff that you can do and the things that we know for sure we're gonna end by the end of the sprint, so we can have a better forecast of the delivery to players, right? And
Right.
that's where the metrics started coming in. That's where they really start holding people accountable. It's like, hey, this is what you promised. What happened? And they were like, well, we experienced issues, we had situations, a lot of things. That develop game development is not always a straight line, so it can happen.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about the game industry. It's kind of like jagged in
Hmm.
some ways. Yeah.
For every game that you see out there, the AAA successful game that launched perfectly without bugs and things like that, I love to compare that stuff to like freaking SpaceX, right? You only have one chance for a successful launch, or you'll have the biggest firework in the world, right? Like the biggest and most expensive firework ever.
Most expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we can name a few examples in the industry. They managed to turn the ship around, but I don't know if you guys remember No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
Those were games that flopped, and the teams bent themselves like pretzels to make it work one way or another. And that is
Yeah.
a really cool success story, but it is not the rule. You only have one chance for launch, for a successful launch, so you need to make it count, or at least that's how it works, in my opinion, at least.
Well, one thing I've heard about the game industry is that when a project is due, you're sort of expected to do more work. You're supposed to take on more of the workload and just get it done. Like, even if you have to work overtime. Is that true?
So the crunch culture. So
Yeah.
that used to be the case, and not even that long ago. We're talking about maybe 10 years ago. The
Mhm.
crunch culture was a thing where you just squeeze the living daylight out of the developers. Uh, Sometimes they would even stay at the studio, sleep in there. Sometimes it would
Yeah.
even lead to freaking marriage fights because they wouldn't be at home and the spouses would get upset and things along those
Mhm.
lines. Um, but like any industry out there, things evolve little by little. They understand like there's so long we can get away with this before we get a lawsuit. Kind of,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure I cannot give you examples, but I'm pretty sure a few lawsuits later, they learned like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't, squeeze the living daylight out of our developers because they might get angry and they probably have the right to sue.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what eventually fits the path of the game industry a little bit. There's also
So
the
that's gone now. You're saying that kind of culture is gone.
at least I'm not sure. I can tell about my experience
Mhm.
with Blizzard and Microsoft at the time that I was working with them. It subsided quite a bit. There's still the pressure of the deadline of we're launching this day, and
Yeah.
I can see them, the overtime cranking up quite a bit, especially when your launch date is coming. But compared to the days of, back to PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox, and then Xbox One, and on and so forth,
Yeah.
like it's gotten much, much better, and it's gonna keep changing, and it's gonna keep getting better. Um, one game at a time, sadly, but uh, I don't wanna completely commit that it is completely gone yet. And remember, at this point, we're only talking about American game development.
Right.
There are horror stories about Japanese game development, and Japan is big on the gaming.
Huge market, right? Japan.
Yep, that's kind of my thing. I love JRPGs, so
Mm.
Japanese RPGs. Yeah. There's lots of rumors. There's a lot of stories about this guy is literally sleeping in the office, having a sleeping bag under the table, and what they call black companies, which is companies that that work until you die.
Yeah.
They even have a name for it. They call it karoshi, which is death by overwork. So, um,
Wow.
so yeah, I mean, we're still on ways to standardize everything, but we're getting there. The big thing nowadays, in my opinion, is the layoff tendency. That's
Yeah.
the thing that is biting everyone on the butt big time.
And why do you think so many people are being laid off? Not just in the game industry, but in the tech industry as a whole.
It is a complex topic, but what I can tell you is the first problem here is considering the game industry the same as the tech industry. Totally different beasts. But because games are technically tech, they say, oh, it's the same, right? And it couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, you need, for making games, going back to the SpaceX analogy, launching that game, you need team that is bonded. They trust each other. They know what they can do and their capabilities, and they're able to, make decisions and guide decisions and have subject matter experts that guide them well. Those kind of things. You cannot get that if you have a revolving door. If you keep hiring people every single time.
Right. That won't work.
Yep, that is going to affect your quality big time. So that is one of the first things. I don't know. The second thing is bringing money decisions into a creative process. Add this feature. People like cats, so we need to add cats. And it's like, this is a Dark Souls game. So I mean, I cannot add cats in here. Well, that's what our marketing tell us. Like, we want cats. And then you see the guy, and then you start seeing issues, right? You start seeing things. Some of the flops that you keep seeing out there, Marathon, for example, that didn't do so well. Again, lots of money talk going on involved and making decisions for instead of the creatives, and you
Yeah.
end up with a game that is like, hey, we heard that hero shooters are very popular. We want a hero shooter game, and we want it with this and this and this and that because research shows that it gives a lot of money. We're already starting on the wrong foot, right? I suppose you see the Marvel's game, the Marvel Heroes games, right?
Yeah.
Super popular, super thing. Why? Because the game is like, hey, I want a hero shooter with Marvel characters. Make it good.
Yeah.
That it. There's no money talk. There's no loot boxes talk. There's not like, no, build the core, make
Yeah, I
it good.
think the whole money talk, the whole money debate. I could see how that would like potentially derail a project if the creatives have one vision, and then you got a manager coming in and saying no, da 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 da. Da. Like you said, we need cats in this, zebras, whatever. I could see that being very frustrating as a dev.
Yep. It really derails all the creative process. That's why teams that are focused precisely on their own vision and don't let outside influence the design process tend to be really successful. I don't know if you guys saw Expedition 33. I think it's going to win Game of the Year, not only because of the quality of the game on itself. The soundtrack is out of this planet. It's an amazing soundtrack, but more importantly, they show the industry something that is really, it should get all these really, really expensive corporations worried, which is you can make a AAA quality game with only 33 developers and outsides and
Wow.
yep, and outsourcing. Yep,
Wow.
because
Yep.
that's what it took. And the game, like I finished the game, and I was like, bloody hell, this is a masterpiece. The only thing that I think it can get close to that is gonna be Death Stranding 2. But that is Hideo Kojima, is the creator of Metal Gear. You know, that is big guns over there. So it's gonna be an interesting game of the year thing.
I think you made an interesting point about the game industry not being like the tech industry, and in the game industry, it's more of a passion thing. You have a direct relationship with the community. If marketing
Mm.
comes in, they start introducing loot boxes, all this stuff. You're gonna get the journalists, the gamers mad, YouTubers, and
Yeah.
that could completely blow your game up. So it's like a balancing act that's not necessarily in general software.
Right.
Hmm. That is true. You need to, so like you said, it's a balancing game. And now, one of the things, for better or worse, I'll say this carefully, the new culture that we have, the influencers culture, right? You'll see a lot of these big companies catering to them because they know how, if someone like Asmongold or any of the big ones out there says something, people tend to listen, right?
Right. Right.
So now you're targeting to the influencers as opposed to getting your vision across, right? And that's another balancing game that I'm like, let's be careful about it. And some really decent games, I'm not gonna say great, but games that this was actually pretty good. They got destroyed by the influencers, right?
Wow.
And I'm like, man, like, did you guys play the game? And it's like, I don't like this character, I don't like this character, they are pushing an agenda. And I'm like, yeah, but did you play the game? You know?
Right.
It's like, and then most they tend to focus on the snippets of the game instead of the game as a whole. If you finish the game and you emit your opinion, I am at least a good 75% sure that they will arrive at the same conclusion that I did. It's like, yes, it has some things that I don't like, but the overall thing is actually pretty good. Lots of effort was put over here, lots of
Yeah.
man hours. People poured their souls into this stuff while trying to manage the expectations of making money, right?
Right.
So that's another interesting topic that it's another can of worms that it needs to be worked carefully, right, to not piss off the wrong people. But
So like money, it sounds like everything kind of starts and stems from the need to make money on a AAA title or whatever the company is putting out. Like you're saying, that can kind of like derail the whole process,
Mhm.
when really, it should be the creatives that are, getting the decisions on the game, not some, CFO or CTO or whatever the position might be, coming in and saying, "Oh no, no, we have to do this, we have to do that," when the whole team is kind of like in one camp and they're
Mhm.
of that mindset of, okay, we're doing this, but then the money comes in and says, "No, you're going to do this." So,
Mhm.
can you speak to that a little bit?
uh, so I think I could probably give an example, right? Let's bring Bungie for example, right? Bungie, Destiny 2. I played the game, decent game. I liked it for a while. Played it for a little bit. They come from Microsoft. They are the original Halo developers, right? They got like, we're tired of Microsoft, and they went, I'm gonna go ahead and make my own studio, and they make their own studio. I'm gonna make my own game, and they make Destiny 1 and then Destiny 2, and it was fun. I'll give them like, I had my fun, right?
Yeah.
Um, Here's the thing that they had to learn the hard way. They came from the mentality of we are a design studio to a hard reality that is this stuff needs to sell if we are to keep the lights on, right?
Right.
And
Bottom
that's
line. Yeah.
yeah, and that's you. I don't know if you guys remember the game journalists and stuff like that. That they said that they were a blatant reach to your pocket, to the players' pockets, right? It's like they want your money. They are charging $30 or $35 for an expansion, and then and I understand because I am also a player. I'm like, hey, like I like my money, you know, I don't want to give it so easily. But at the same time, as a developer, I understand. I mean, a single decent senior level programmer is about $130,000 to $150,000 a year. That's one programmer.
Right, just one.
Yeah. And we're not talking directors, we're not talking producers, we're not talking even artists that you need lots of artists to get to build that world, right? And then there's the time. Before you get to see any of that money, you first need to develop the product and then sell it. So during that time, you're constantly on the red. You're always underwater. You release the game, and you hope that the game sells enough to pull you above water and then some to start prepping
Yeah.
for your next thing.
So is it kind of like marketing starts driving the ship at the point where they're looking at it like, okay, well, this needs to be profitable.
So I will say for individual studios like Bungie, is necessity. Is the first thing that starts driving is like, hey guys, like this is turning very, very expensive. I'm starting to get nervous over here. We need to make money if we are to keep developing games, right? But if it is a AAA studio like freaking 343 / Halo Studios or you know, EA or you name it over there, I believe that their problem is not exactly how to make money, but what to make with it, right? What to do with it. So, or how to maximize that money that they're coming for, whether it is developing new models, right? So it depends on the size of your company and the product that you're developing. If it's EA, they'll push for it, right?
So it's sounding to me like it's really almost company specific what the culture is going to look like, what the team's going to look like.
I can give you another example. You guys familiar with Baldur's Gate 3 by any chance?
Yeah, Valerian.
So I highly suggest you check it out for the sake of the soundtrack. You mentioned you do music, right?
Oh yeah,
the soundtrack
I make video game music.
Oh, there you go. The soundtrack is next level, planet, and like amazing. But they won Game of the Year. Here's the thing. They developed that game. I think it was for 6-7 years. You might have to fact check me on that one. But for a long time, and during that time, they almost went bankrupt twice.
Wow.
Yeah, but the director at that time, he stayed course. It's like, hey, if this ship's sinking, we sink all together. We are not changing the scope. We're not changing the product. We are staying course, and we're gonna make this game with the highest level of quality we can possibly achieve, with the most possible decision making that any game ever seen so far. Very ambitious, very, very ambitious. And
it's very different from the tech industry. Like you're saying, there's all this passion.
Yeah.
A lot of people in tech, it's just, it's a paycheck. So I think there's that big divide there from, like you're saying, game and tech industry.
Yep. So they won Game of the Year, and then the director shows up at the Game of the Year award with a plate armor, right? Super interesting guy, and he says like, I spoke with my, I'm paraphrasing over here, but he was like, I spoke with my fortune teller, and she told me who is gonna win the next Game of the Year award. And everybody was like, what? And it's like, it's gonna be the studio that puts passion against above everything else. It's gonna be the studio that is not trying to squeeze money out of the player. It is gonna be the studio that, so it's giving all the characteristics of a successful game development studio over there, that it is not focused on profit, right?
Yeah.
It was a big lesson to all the big companies out there, but it's certainly an eye-opening for the big paychecks out there that are doing the decision making. It's like, hey,
right,
you need to trust your teams on that design process, right? You need to let them design. Do not put money in yet. Make them create a good product, a good solid product, and then we work the monetization, maybe, right?
That would bring the marketing in after.
Yep.
Make sure it looks pretty. Make sure it's running fast.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about the marketing, right?
Yeah. Another success example: $2 billion in 6 months. Genshin Impact. I think it was 2 billion with B in 6 months. And what they did, they are the most microtransaction ever game ever. But what they did is they built a really solid game, amazing solid game that you can easily play, no compromise, free, no compromise whatsoever. Right? You can play the entire base core game that it is great, and then you can start pouring money in to feed your gambling addiction, I guess, because that's pretty much what it is. But by doing that, they were like, hey, you don't have to give us money. The game is free. But if you give us money, you get this really cool looking, anime character over here, right? Like, and
Right.
it worked. Holy cow! Like even it even got me. I'm not gonna lie. Like it got $200 out of me, and then I was like,
Wow.
chest beating is like I should know better. Like, but
And so,
they did
like,
good.
what kind of features were you buying?
For that game.
Yeah.
So it's what they call a gacha game. Gacha game stands from the Japanese. Japanese have this physical game where there's a bunch of tiny characters on a kind of a Pokeball, and then you put a couple of coins in, you rotate the thing, and the character that you get is random, right? And then
Okay.
you keep trying until you get the character that you want. They brought that into a game, into a video game where you keep giving money, you keep putting coins in until you get the character that you really, really want.
Okay.
So it's basically like a gambling mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
it worked. It worked really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, like in the industry, it used to be powered by video game journalists, and now with a more modern industry, like you mentioned, YouTubers and other influencers, they have much more of a say. Do you find like it's a lot different dealing with them versus the gaming, the gaming media where there's more professionals versus just some guy who just happens to be in front of the camera, and like how do you
So
handle that?
for me, it's just a battle of opinions,
Yeah.
and whoever gets the most followers is the one that wins. Sadly, um,
Right.
for me, if I were to approach game reviews on an objective matter, you will create a system, a template that everybody's following, and that way you have more standardized, almost scientific approach, right? But all these reviews, all this, even journalists, is based on feeling, right? What better to make you feel than a video game? It has music, it has heart, it has a
Yeah.
story, it has voice acting, it has all this stuff. So
There's
um,
there's like a culture behind it, behind the
yeah.
games. Yeah.
So imagine you're a journalist, or you are an influencer, and say, for instance, man, I don't know, you hit your pinky toe when you were walking, and now you're in a bad mood or something really bad, and now you have to review this game. Will that affect your judgment, right?
Right.
So same story with like, hey, the game is really great, but this character says that he hates cats, and you happen to love cats. Does that affect your decision, right? So this is
Yeah.
why I my biggest advice to anyone out there that is listening is like, before you actually jump in to see the reviews of a particular game, try playing it. Try giving it a shot. At the worst case scenario, you're helping the studio. You're giving food to
Yeah.
you're providing the sustenance for all those artists that pour hundreds, if not thousands, of hours into making that world a thing, right?
Right.
That would be my take on it, at least.
So for somebody who wanted to get a job at like your studio, who wanted to work at Microsoft on Halo, like what are the characteristics that you look at? Like what separates somebody who you would hire versus somebody you would pass on?
So let's start with passion, right? It's really
Yeah.
hard to quantify, but you can feel it when you talk to a person, and that person starts like getting friendly, and it's like, oh my god, and they start like, and it goes off the rail. You're in the middle of an interview, and suddenly it starts, like geeking out about the stuff. That is passion oozing out in there. Maybe the job interview is not the best place to let that ooze out, but for me, it's a big indicative. It's like this guy loves the game, right? Loves that particular world, whether it's Halo, whether it is, God of War,
Yeah,
you name it.
that's important.
So that is the guy that, if we were 15 years ago, you could ask him to work 72 hours straight, and he will be like, "Sir, yes, sir," right? That is the power of passion. That is the guy that is gonna go and say, just like Bonnie at the Halo studio back in the day, she would go and say, "We're not releasing a shitty Halo. Even if I have to sacrifice my job, we're pushing that deadline 1 year." Uh, and she took all sorts of risks by doing that, but she was on point. It's like, I love my IP, I love my Halo games. I am not doing a subpar product, and she took the risk, and it paid off. I mean, Halo
Yeah,
campaign, even though the game came out in pieces, Halo campaign actually came out pretty decent. People actually enjoy the Halo campaign. So passion is important. Skills, it is important, but a lot of those can be taught in the job. Unless you're a neurosurgeon, I think most jobs can be taught, right? And then, but it is important that most of the people that want to work on the game industry put those 10,000 hours uh, to perfect their craft, because the next guy to them is doing just that. That's how competitive it is. That is the bare minimum, sadly. Everybody wants to make video games, just like everybody wants to be a Hollywood actor, right?
right, right.
Like, so,
Or everyone wants to be a famous musician.
there you go. Then that's Taylor Swift, right?
There you go,
So,
Beyonce. Yeah,
yep. So that is the my suggestion to all of them, and it is a very competitive industry. From practical advice for me, move to the city where there's that it is big on video games. For example, Seattle, Austin, Texas, California. Name the city. Get near that, because it is important. I just learned that the hard way.
yeah,
Uh, and then keep working on those skills. Just because you're unemployed is not an excuse to keep studying and keep getting certifications and keep getting, because that's what the guy next to you is doing. That's what your competition is doing. They are not stopping. So you want that job, you have to keep at it, keep at it. And then for me, there is no shame in doing something while you get your dream job, right?
yeah.
Sadly, the bills are not going to stop coming just because your passion is not panning out, right? So I done a lot of odd jobs in the main. Like I fixed casino slot machines for a year, right? To give you an example, one of the skills that I had that I happen to have with electronic components happened to pan out in that situation, and it helped me while for quite a bit. I did semiconductors. I did freaking microchips for a while I was getting my next job. So you are gonna be. Some people are lucky and they're just gonna be a straight career path, but a lot of people like me just gonna be jumping around for the next gig until they find exactly what. You never stop applying, though. You
Yeah,
never stop applying. So that's my advice to whoever uh, you know might be interested.
kind of like, yeah, people that want to be relevant, that want to be,
Hmm.
kind of part of something. You really got to, put that passion in, put those hours in. It's like, anything like music too. Like, you have to put the hours in. You can't show up on a gig and be like, "Oh, I don't know the third song." And they'd be like, "What do you mean you don't know the song?" Like, we pay
Yeah.
you're the session musician. You're supposed to know this. I
Mhm.
think that kind of carries over to the game industry as well.
Mhm. Yep, yep. It's all about putting the effort and finding a goal that you know that you want really badly, and then just keeping at it, keep knocking on that door until it opens.
Hmm.
Uh, is there's no Sadly, there's no you. Some people get lucky and they don't have to work that hard. Luck is a factor. Let's face it.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see back on my days on the studios, like I saw a lot of people that when I ask them, it's like, "What is your favorite game?" And they'll tell me, "I don't play video games." And for me, that was like, oh, And in my mind, I'm like, here I am, bending myself like a pretzel, trying to get all these skills to build. And this guy or girl, that doesn't even like video games, got this job. But you'll find those scenarios. But I, I I want to encourage everybody saying that hard work does not disappoint, never disappoints you, right? Just good old fashioned roll your sleeves and keep going at it. Keep getting skills, keep getting yourself more appealing, and eventually you'll get that email that says, "Is like, hey, we want to talk with you."
And so it's like elbow grease.
Mm-hmm.
You really gotta put in the time, put in the effort. If
Mm-hmm.
you wanna, like you're saying, even if you just want to get into the industry as a junior, as an entry level, you
Mm-hmm.
need to be up
Yep.
here, instead of down here where, okay, you need this kind of training, that kind of training. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of companies now are going to say, forget that. We're going to go with the guy who already knows Unreal Engine, whatever model. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. You got it. That's exactly right. It is painful, but at least it is honest. There, you're not gonna find. And if you do, holy cow, good job. But let's just say it is really hard to find entry level position for producer. It's like
Yeah.
I have been scouring the job sites for long. Every time I am in between game industry jobs, I never seen any company looking for entry level. That said, there are internships. Big
Right.
companies like Sony, they'll do internships, and then at least you get to put that on your resume, right? It's like, hey, I did
Yeah.
the
Right.
Sony internship and things along those lines.
Yeah. That's great.
Mhm.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we're getting to the top of the hour. Before we get out of here, where can our audience find you at? And did you want to leave them with any closing thoughts?
Sure. I mean, feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have questions about the industry on LinkedIn. You can find them by my name, Oscar Araque, and just look for the bald dude, and then that'll be me. And if you have questions, you know, leave me a note, and I'll be more than happy to answer as best as I can. Uh, I am not. I don't. I just want to set up the expectations. I am not an industry guru. These are all my personal experience that I have lived through since I started working on this stuff. Uh, but I can tell you, I'll do the best to guide because you never know that the person that you talk with actually has a high luck stat, gets in the industry, and then he pulls you in or she pulls you in, right? So it's funny how everything works on that industry. Other than that, yeah, thank you for having me. Have a
Awesome,
Yeah.
good
For
day.
man.
sure.
Just to spell out your last name for the audience:
And
OSCARAQUE.
perfect. Yes, that's correct.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it was definitely a pleasure having you on, and we'd like to thank everybody for tuning